Hello?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, now we can hear you very well.
Okay, good. I have a dog in the background, but that's the best I can do.
And I have barrels rolling in the background.
Oh, okay. We're perfect. Excellent. So I have a few pictures of the vineyard. Once we get going, I'll pop them up so people can see where you are. But
Right?
my idea to do this was to show vineyard shots of places around the world so people who are quarantined. But your people said you don't have good connection in the vineyard, so we're in your cellar now. So
We
can we
are.
start, Roman? Tell us who you are and where you are, and then give us how did you end up where you are, like some background on yourself.
Sure. Well, Roman Roth, I'm the winemaker and partner at Wolfer Estates here in the Hamptons. Between Bridgehampton and East Hampton is our beautiful winery and vineyard. I put on my best Long Island accent on for you. I'm originally from Germany, but I'm since 28 years. I came in 1992 to make the first wines here on the estate, and never left. It's been such a beautiful place to make wine with New York, such a great wine market in front of our doorstep, and the Hamptons right here around us. It's a very fortunate place. We have beautiful ownership with Mark and Joey Wolfer. I'm a partner. And so there's a great emphasis on quality, on passion. As it is a family-owned winery. It's not, it's not the CFO that makes the wine. It's the spirit. It's our own drive to make great wines is what makes the decisions. And so, what a great place to work and to be.
So where did you go to school for wine? In Germany?
I did in Germany. I started when I was 16 with my apprenticeship, which goes 3 years. It's a dual system where you have 1 month of school, 3 months of work. This goes for 3 years. Then I needed 5 journey years, which I did, and I traveled to California and worked at Sainsbury Estate in Carneros. Went back to Germany, then went to Australia, worked at Rosemount Estate, and came back to Germany, worked for the Heidelberg Winery in Wiesloch, and finally had my 5 journey years. And then I did my master's degree in Weinsberg at the university there and got my degree in enology. And at the time, then Christian Wolfer was looking for a winemaker here on Long Island, and I thought, hey, why not? Let me practice my interview skills. My plan was to go to Australia, where my wife is from. So I called up Christian Wolfer, and he told me over the phone that Manhattan is half an hour away from the Hamptons, which is the New York stretch of the truth. But it worked, and it got me here, and never left.
Yeah. So I'm showing a picture up here on top. I think you can see that, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can.
So can you tell us about the estate? A little bit of like where it is now, but also you're the man to ask the history of winemaking in Long Island, because it's an interesting story.
Well, there's a couple of great things when you see that picture. For example, there are very important things is that we are on the same latitude as Madrid in Spain or Naples in Italy. So we are much further south than any of the French or German vineyards. So fantastic sunlight, and also being a maritime climate, you can see that blue sky. If we have a storm, usually there's a storm for one day and then you have sunshine right away again. So it's a great moderating influence. And there's a couple of facts on that. It protects our vines in winter, so we get no winter damage and have great, so we can prune already very aggressively in January and determine, do we want to make our $100 Merlot that is in these barrels here, or do we want to go for our $20 rosé? So that's a great advantage we have on the whole East Coast, that we can prune early because we don't get winter damage. Then in spring, we have late spring because the water cools the climate, keeps it cooler, which is a blessing. So we have no spring frosts, like you see those big windmills in California or that kind of thing, where you can easily lose quite a bit of your crop. And we have no danger of spring frosts. In summer now is the reverse, again, where the warm summer comes. And again, we have this cooler influence, which gives us this very slow and steady ripening curve. So it doesn't happen like in a hot climate where all of a sudden you have 16, 17 volume percent, and you have to add water to the juice and get 15 and write 14 on the label. But in any case, we have this balance, this elegance. So that's our trademark. And 20 years ago, when people only wanted big fat wines, it was more difficult for us. But now that people realize less is more and more food friendliness, and again, elegance and balance is the key. It's really our strength. And last but not least is that we're the last area in New York State to get a frost. And so if you have no frost, you have healthy leaves and a good canopy, you get photosynthesis, you get this long hang time, which helps us to ripen seeds, helps us to ripen skins, and gives us our unique intensity and power and complexion, despite being elegant and 12 volume percent, 13.5 volume percent wines.
And what's the soil out there?
The soil is excellent. It's the Bridgehampton loam, and the 10,000 years ago, when the glacier formed the last ice age formed Long Island, it left this huge sand dune, Long Island, but it also left us with this 8 to 9 feet of topsoil of clay loam silt mix on top of gravelly sand. So excellent water holding capacity. pH is great, so that the nutrient uptake of the vines is really healthy. So very good conditions, great soil. And again, we are 2.6 miles from the ocean. So we have this lovely sea breeze that moderates, helps us to combat. We have two enemies. One would be the hurricanes. That would be the worst thing. Luckily, the last direct hurricane was in 1991. I came in 92, so I'm the good luck charm. So anyway, that's the one danger. And of course, we could have these 2-3 weeks of very high humidity in August. And luckily, we have this sea breeze who helps us dry our canopies, dries the dew, and that is a way to combat high humidity.
And Hurricane Sandy didn't bother you?
We picked on Sunday. At the time, we made a dessert wine, like a Trockenbeerenauslese, a Sauterne idea of a dessert wine, which we picked on Sunday, and then Hurricane Sandy came on Monday. So actually, it was the first time when we pressed off the dessert wine, because you have to let it soak for 24 hours to extract all the sugar. It's so dry, such a dry grape that you need to soak them for a bit. And so we pressed off, and in the meantime, the storm and the wind is getting worse and worse. And my assistant and I were the only one who came in that day. And finally, we said, you know what, we dropped off the last berries, we pushed the line, and we said, forget about it. We just run home, and we left the grapes inside the press, which I've never done before. So anyway.
Well, that's crazy times, call for crazy measures. So
it worked out.
What's the difference between, like, when most wine in Long Island is in the North Fork, but I think it's just you and Channing Daughters in the South. Why is that, and what's the difference?
Well, the most important thing is that the land is extremely expensive on the South Fork. And so as a result, you know, that the pressure to build houses is much higher.
Right.
So this is a unique spot to have what we have. We have, well, it's a 174-acre estate, Wolfer Estate, with a beautiful horse farm, which would make a beautiful winery one day. So I'm pushing. But nevertheless, it's a beautiful estate, and we have 50 acres here. But most of the wineries are on the North Fork, because at the time also the difference is on the soil on the North Fork is a Haven loam, which is maybe 3 to 4 feet of this clay loam silt mix. We have 8 to 9 feet. So potato farmers couldn't make a living much earlier on the North Fork, because those soils were lighter. They didn't have the same crops of potatoes as on the South Fork. So those farms were earlier for sale, and the land was cheaper, and that's why we saw so much more development of vineyards on the North Fork.
So did the Wolfers buy well before property was crazy?
Well, you could say yes. I mean, Christian Wolfer started this. He bought in 74 his first field, his house and his field there, and then he kept on adding properties to it until it became this 174-acre. Okay. You know, unbelievable. Something you cannot repeat anymore on the South Fork. Yeah. So that's quite amazing. So we have 150 acres. We have a 27-acre field on the North Fork where we have a long-term lease, 30-year lease, and then we work with 160 acres with growers where we have partnerships and long-term deals. And that's where the whole rosé wave that we have helped create basically could only happen by quickly forming friendships and partnerships and buying grapes, basically.
Yeah, I do want to get to that. So what, I think we've kind of covered it, but what was the history of winemaking up there? It was the Hargraves had that potato farm in the North Fork?
Yes, the Hargraves, they started the farming in 74, I think, as well. And that was a great fortuitous move. They didn't have any idea about grape growing and winemaking, so that took a while. And unfortunately, there were some people tasted some bad wines early on, but they did have this amazing vision to come to Long Island to grow the first vinifera grapes here on Long Island. So it took a while for people to get over those, early bad experiences. But then after that, we were certainly established, and I think it's the best growing region on the East Coast, that we have all these climate reds. We can produce fantastic red wines on Long Island. Certainly rosés are doing well in the whites. So it's something very constant. Consistency, I think, is also key to success, and the good wineries, and certainly Wolfer. Everybody can make good wine in a good year, but we make good wines in the tricky years, and I think that's our key to success.
So what grapes do you grow, and how did you decide which to put where?
Well, the four grape varieties that really do best on Long Island are Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc for the whites, and Merlot and Cabernet Franc for the reds. It's something you can do every year quite well if you're careful with your crops. I mean, Cab Franc is a bit more crop sensitive. If you overcrop it, it bites you back with grassy and bell pepper flavors. But if you keep your crop well moderate, you can do those. Those are the four grape varieties do very well. Trebbiano does very well. We will plant a little more and more Trebbiano over the next couple of years. But those are the ones. First of all, I think those are the varieties that do best. There are maybe some other varieties, but where it's very difficult to sell. Again, even Trebbiano does very well, but even Cabernet Franc, who does very well, but only the last couple of years did it see success where people started buying it in earnest, and where you didn't have to sell just a single case to a restaurant, and the sommelier had to sell every bottle by himself.
Right.
So, yeah.
And since you're talking about that, how you've seen the change. I have been at my restaurant, the Waverly Inn, for like 9 years now. And just the past couple of years, people are they understand that there's good wine in New York. It's been an uphill battle, though. And you were the first quality wine, like the first wine that made $100 sale. I remember that years ago. Can you talk about the trajectory and how all that came about?
Well, there's many things. I think as people realized, I came in 92, and we realized that we could make Chardonnay extremely well, but people weren't still not sure about the red wines. But then we started the practice of leaf removal in the fruit zone, where you get much less pyrrozides, those green flavors. So early on, much healthier wines. The wines themselves matured, so you were not forced to pick as early, because the pH balance and the acidity balance was much more, more mature vineyards, have a much better balance. So you're not forced to pick early because your pH goes through the roof, and you would make this soap opera and get spoilage flavors, spoilage bacteria. So that helped. Obviously, getting blonder and blonder has helped. So age is the tough price you pay for experience.
Yeah.
But so we push much further. And then at the end, I think, what has helped Wolfer is the Rosé program was a very fortunate move that we did early on. And then when we designed Summer in a Bottle, that really broke the ice, and it became a cult wine. And for us, it has opened up many doors. There's a couple of things. I think New Yorkers have to show that they have style and they have money in some ways. And a local Long Island wine didn't show you that when you serve the bottle on your dinner table. What, you can't afford a bottle of Chateau Latour? What's wrong with you? So maybe the Rosé was the one where you could first accept and say, oh, this is my local wine, but I still buy Chateau such and such. So without losing faith, you could endorse a local wine. That's why I think our rosés went so well. Obviously, because we treat rosé very seriously and we deliberately make this style. It's not like treated like a garbage can or, oh, this Riesling didn't work out, throw it in the rosé.
Right.
So we take rosé very serious, and it has really helped us to elevate the entire estate. We, again, have become a cult wine. It gives you this good feeling wine, where when you serve a bottle of Wolfer Rosé, it makes a statement, and people feel happy before even drinking the wine.
Yeah.
And then in return, because we are so successful with rosé, we spend now probably $300 a ton more than anybody else on top red wines. And I think it's elevating our entire other portfolio, our white horse wines, where we basically can fine tune. It doesn't hurt our budget, because almost 80% of our production is rosé now. So the other 20%, we are super dialing into every berry, every cluster, every shoot position, every leaf. And that, again, makes better red wines, makes our top white wines better. And in return, as those wines getting more and more accepted, it helps our rosé program again.
Yeah. Well, when you think, I mean, that's changing, but traditionally rosé came from Provence, and it was kind of like selling the lifestyle. And I mean, the Hamptons is that lifestyle too, but it wasn't like it. It was very canny, but I think it kind of evolved, your rosé program, and then the marketing and the label.
Well, no, we started making in '92 with a bone dry rosé.
Okay.
And at the time, everybody drank sweet white Zinfandels, and even if they made a rosé, they were sweet, or in Matus and whatever. There was a lot of funky rosé out there. So we made it, and there were a couple of good ones, but they really were far and few, and only the people who really understood French rosés drank them.
Yeah.
And so we made the dry rosé, and people would come to the winery, and either they would love them or they made a somersault backwards. So it was quite difficult because they were dry. But then finally we kept on pushing with this and making good rosé. And it was funny, last year I was invited by the Provence Wine Council for a symposium, and I was representing, well, it was about climate change as well, mainly. So, but anyway, I did my little chart of how many cases we made every year. We, from 2,000 to 4,000 to 13,000 to 28,000. Anyway, the chart showed in 2007, our chart started to go up. Everybody since Corona knows how charts go.
Yeah.
So our curve went up in 2007. And the Bordeaux, the Provence region had a similar chart of Provence sales, and their curve only started to go up in 2009. So I feel we did a big part of helping this to make rosé palatable, and people are accepting rosés, and real men drink rosé now. So
yeah,
we did
well,
our fair share.
When you're out in the Hamptons, you see the bottle, but now you're all over the place. You're nationwide, right?
We are in 26 states. We're really driving very hard, and luckily, again, because now, unfortunately, so many restaurants, as you know, and we have 2 restaurants, it's a dilemma. Luckily, we have pushed so hard out in other states and in New York, and New Jersey is making fantastic numbers for us. The stores, and because people know Wolfer and know our rosé, and it's all about trust, and again, and a feeling and an experience.
Right.
And so again, consistency. I mean, what is it? Trust. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And I think so. You have to be honest, and it's not just a one-time deal selling a pallet to South Carolina and never showing up.
Right.
We're working tirelessly. We have a sales team of 7 people who work tirelessly, and I think our marketing department. I think there's many different things that come together. I'm sitting on a chair here that rocks. You have to grow the grapes, you have to make the wine, you have to sell it, and you have to market it. And if one of those legs is short, the table starts to wobble, and you go into a negative spiral. And we push very hard at all of those 4 things that we are a team, and we're pushing together forward.
Yeah. I always tell people, when you have a glass of wine, you're kind of visiting the place that it's from, and you're lucky to be in a place that's an aspirational summer thing, but the wine is so good that people will always get a second glass or a second bottle.
Yes, it's fabulous. I mean, again, it's the Hamptons, it's the lifestyle, but where you can afford to go for luxury wines. I mean, where we make Pearl, we make a top Chardonnay. This year we made last year we started for the first year, we made a top. Nobody has gone for the crown of Sauvignon Blanc. Everybody makes a easy drinking, like fun stainless steel version. And I said, well, finally, this 27-acre vineyards that we leased, we have a long-term supply of great Sauvignon Blanc. I have this musk clone on it. We made a top called Antonov. Some was fermented in puncheons, some in stainless steel, ice cold fermentation. It's a super Sauvignon Blanc. But because we have also this audience here and these restaurants in Manhattan, we can go for this. If you're somewhere in the middle of Argentina, it's much more difficult to come up with something like this and try and be successful.
What can you talk to me more about the Sauvignon Blanc? What do? You age it longer? Their lees? What makes it special?
It stays 7 months sur lee, long lease contact. I use this Alchemy, this very special Bayanus strain, very cold fermented. I mean, we very select basically already the picking of and the whole preparation during the season, and like dropping fruit at the raisin. We make ideal conditions for this. So we really have gone to go for the crown with this Sauvignon Blanc. So this is something, and we made a Semillon this year. We have the same vineyard has a beautiful Semillon vineyard, and I made a skin fermentation on it. But hate is a strong word, but I'm not a big fan of orange wines because a lot of them are spoiled. There are some good ones, but a lot of them to me are spoiled. And so I made this skin fermentation of Semillon where we first went over the sorting table like a red wine. If there was one tiny stem, it came out. If there was one green berry, it came out. But then I used the pulse air, which is this device where you're pushing CO2 into the tank to break the cake up. So instead of oxidizing and aerating, we had no oxygen contact whatsoever. So there's this beautiful wine. It's basically green. It has a beautiful color, not orange. Amazing aroma, yet the tannins are of red wine. It's a beautiful combination. So we do all these exciting things, and we have an ownership who lets me play with these kinds of things. We even, because we had such a great vintage last year with 19, we came up with a whole new called a cellar series. So we do a lot of different things. Again, we're pushing on these ultimate artisanal wines. We're pushing on rosé, which we makes web special. Sometimes people think Wulfer is this big winery who makes lots of wine. Every barrel, everything, we know what's in these barrels. We know each block that goes into the rosé, and that makes the wine, I think, special.
Right. I have to say hi to my friend Chloe, who's on here. Can you tell us what's happening in the picture here? You do a lot of events at the estate, right?
Yes, we do. We have the winery, which is very classic. We have fantastic servings where you get little samples and you can share the samples. So it's really a very wine-focused tasting room, and it's just a gorgeous site. But then we also have what you see in the pictures, our wine stand. This used to be a vegetable patch. And
right under me, yeah.
We tore down one of the greenhouses, and first of all, it's in the middle of the vineyard. It has this beautiful grass area. We have on Fridays and Saturdays, we have a band. It's the most elegant scene in the Hamptons. It's like, you think, sometimes there are 500 people sitting there on blankets. It is just a serene, the kids, where can you let your kids run and go wild and play and whatever? The kids run around, have fun. It's a unique, sometimes, again, I go myself because it's so relaxing.
And it's not just Memorial Day to Labor Day, right? It's a bigger season than that.
Well, it goes usually, it's called Sunset Fridays. So as long as there's a nice sunset and as long as the temperature is nice, we keep it going. The thing is, when people are in the city, every day, and it's a grind and you're working, and when you come out to the Hamptons, you want to be in the open air. You don't want a lecture now that I'm telling you, oh, this has 5% new oak and 3%. Exactly. Last thing they want to hear. They want to come out, grab 2 bottles, 3 bottles under their arm, sit there, text their friends, meet me at the wine stand.
Yeah.
Somehow it really has opened the hearts of our customers, and it's amazing how many. I'm getting older, our customers getting younger, or both. We have so many young people who love our wines and who are loyal, and it's like a winery's dream to have young people love your wine.
Yeah. So how is things different now? Like, we are all trying to plan for when it opens, but we don't really know anything. How has Corona affected you as a winemaker? I know we've already spread out in the vineyard, and you probably have minimal people in the cellar. But can you tell us what's going on and what has been going on the past 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, we took it very serious. All my relatives from Germany, you could hear this, you could see this coming. How how the government could not see this coming is beyond me exactly. I don't know what the delay was in getting ready. But so as a result, we were very early. We were the first to close. We were ahead of the game, trying to limit people and stuff. But any case, the tasting room is closed. The restaurants are closed. We're working shift work in the cellar, so we minimize how many people are here. So there are only 3 people working instead of 6 people at the same time, so we don't run into each other. Officers from home. The vineyard doesn't come inside. We don't go into the vineyard. We're very strict separating. Luckily, we've started a couple of years ago a drive-through, and now, of course, it has really paid off that we had all this ready. And so you press your button, the booth opens. You have paid already beforehand online, and it's amazing. We really have seen, our restaurant sales are basically zero. Yeah. And that's very hurtful and painful, and it's awful to see for all the restaurants. But luckily, the retail sales and our online sales and our direct pickup has really gone up, and it's basically saving us. So luckily, winemaking is essential, so I've not skipped a beat. I've been here every day making great wines. The 2019 was the best vintage Long Island has ever had, and I'm making sure it goes beautifully into the bottle, and the barrels are all taken care of. And so we've been moving forward, and I think it will open sometime in June, July, with maybe a 25% opening rate, which would be nice. We're already making big plans. We have these beautiful open spaces where you would get your separate section, where you will have, a big space around you, where we will have different tables really spread out. So we're really trying hard to make an experience for people to relax and not to worry that you're sitting on top of each other.
Right. And do you have a website that people buy from also?
We have wolfer.com, WOLFFER, wolfer.com. We have a beautiful wine club. It's a great way to experience, come to see a winery first. Once it opens up again, you don't have to fly to France or to California to experience a real vineyard. New York pride.
Exactly. Yeah, that's going to happen more and more. I have a question from a wine journalist, Becky Sue Epstein. She says she thought bell pepper flavors came from unripe, but you said overcropping. I'm not sure. What? Can you explain?
When you overcrop, that means your fruit won't ripen as well, and so from the unripe flavors, you will get the bell pepper and grassy flavors. So
overcropping means what?
Overcropping is, let's say, you have so many grapes you can keep on an acre of wine.
Right.
So let's say anything below around 3.5 tons per acre is acceptable. Once you go above 3.25, 3.5, you will, have shade where clusters lie on top of each other. So now there is no sunlight going between. And now those berries will stay greener, and that's where you get your pyrazines and your grassy flavors from.
I see.
So you have to be able to separate your clusters, which means you have to drop one cluster, keep the other 2. So you should lose a third of your crop easily, and you should stay below 3 tons an acre to make good Cab Franc.
And that is with what kind of vine density?
Well, in our case, we have row spacing is in 9 feet is in most row spacing on Long Island, and 6 feet between vines. So that's a big spacing, but the big spacing actually works quite well for young vineyards, because only when you have a 40-year-old vineyard and your yield goes so far down, then you're really happy when you have 10,000 vines per hectare.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you have a 3-year-old vines, you don't want 10,000 vines on your field, because they're competing. It's like a bushland,
Yeah.
So anyway, so we have a good spacing, has helped us to get early on good vines. And as long as you can charge, it's only when you're making $12, $8 wines or $6 rosés is when you really want big crops, So
yeah.
we stay away from that.
Exactly. Well, we're coming on the half-hour mark, and I don't want to take too much of your time. I really appreciate you chatting with me. It's always a pleasure to see you. Do
Yeah.
you want to say anything to people before we go?
Well, it's nice to. I think the fun thing is with this COVID period, this terror period, we do much more of these Zoom meetings, and I feel I get actually more private time. I rarely get half an hour, 20 minutes to talk to a sommelier when I come to the city, because
Exactly.
you get your 5 minute, 10 minute in and out, and that's it. So same with our distributors. We've had like 45-minute meetings. I barely get that ever. So there's some great things I think that we should learn from this and take that forward. And in the meantime, we will grow great grapes. We're not going away. We'll only get stronger with every difficulty. Wolfer Estate has made a milestone out of it and moved forward. And I see that coming with this one as well. So stay strong and stay healthy. Drink lots of wine. Stay away from hard liquor. Although although we make a great gin at
You make a
Wolfer
good
Estate,
gin.
which I'm very proud of. But yeah, that's the key to success in life, I think. Drink wine till you're 95.
I agree, and we look forward to getting some Wolfer. I'm thirsty now after chatting about it, so I'm gonna go have some. It's a real pleasure to talk with you, sir. Thank you again for taking the time, and you have a nice day.
Thank you. I look
Thank
forward
you
to
to your
seeing you in life
thank
again.
your team for helping me out too. They've been really great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we have a great team effort. Bye.
Okay, take care.